Visceral fat is the most dangerous type of fat on your body. And what's worse is the type of fat you can't see. Unlike the fat that you can pinch under the skin, visceral fat is the fat that wraps around your organs, wrecks your hormones, drives up your risk of heart disease and diabetes, and is slowly turning your body into a ticking time bomb. So today we're going to dive into the 5 signs that your visceral fat is dangerously high. And then more importantly, how you can fix it fast without extreme diets or wasting hours on the treadmill. So full screen the video and let's lock in. Most guys think that fat is just a cosmetic issue, that it's just about how you look in a t-shirt or at the beach this summer. But visceral fat doesn't sit under your skin. You can't even see it. It builds up around your vital organs, your liver, your pancreas, and your intestines. It chokes them. It disrupts how your body processes food, stores energy, and produces hormones. And here's the scary part. You can look normal on the outside and still be storing dangerous levels of it inside. You might not even notice that anything's wrong until the damage is already done. We're talking high blood pressure, low testosterone, insulin resistance, inflammation, heart disease, and even early cognitive decline. It's like rust forming on the inside of your body while the paint on the outside still looks fine. That's exactly why I made this video, because if you've even got one of the 5 signs that we're going to go through today, then you need to take this seriously. The clearest sign that your visceral fat is high is a thick waist and a firm belly. I'm not talking about the soft, squishy fat that you can grab. That's called subcutaneous. Subcutaneous fat sits just under the skin. That's your stored energy. It's stubborn, especially around the lower belly, but it's not anywhere near as dangerous as visceral fat. Because you see, visceral fat pushes your abdominal wall outwards from the inside, creating that hard, rounded look. You know the beer belly that sticks out like a barrel? That's not just beers and takeaways, it's usually visceral fat. And here's the brutal truth. The bigger your waist, the higher your risk of disease. If your waist is over 40 inches, which is 102 centimeters, then you're in the danger zone. Even over 36 inches is a warning sign, especially if you're not carrying much muscle. The problem? Most guys don't measure, they just eyeball it. So grab a tape measure, no sucking in, measure at the belly button and not your hips. Relax, exhale, then check the number. If it's creeping up year after year or even month after month, you're not just gaining weight, you're storing fat in the worst possible place. But again, this is fixable and it starts with awareness. The second sign that you've got dangerously high levels of visceral fat is that you've been told that you've got something called metabolic syndrome. Now, when most guys hear metabolic syndrome, their eyes glaze over. But let me break it down simply, because if you've got it, your visceral fat is already doing damage. Metabolic syndrome is the name for a cluster of issues that all stem from poor metabolic health, and it's strongly linked to visceral fat. It includes high blood pressure, high blood sugar, insulin resistance, high triglycerides, and low HDL cholesterol. Now, if you've got 3 or more of those, you're in the danger zone. Why does this matter? Because visceral fat isn't just inert body fat that's sitting there doing nothing. It's metabolically active tissue that's pumping out inflammatory chemicals, disrupting your hormones, and making it harder for your body to process carbs and fats. So your blood sugar goes up, your blood pressure creeps up, and your testosterone levels tank. And this is where your risk of heart disease and type 2 diabetes skyrockets. And once you're in that hole, it's even harder to get out of. You're fighting an uphill battle every single day. But the worst part, most guys don't get tested until it's affecting their energy, their libido, and just their general day-to-day drive. So if your doc has ever mentioned blood pressure medication or pre-diabetes or high cholesterol, take that as a warning sign, because it means your body is already waving the red flag. The third sign is that you struggle with low energy and brain fog. Now, most guys just brush this off. You're busy, you've got a lot on, you're getting older. Of course you're tired, right? But if you're constantly running on empty, waking up feeling groggy, having mid-afternoon crashes, and needing caffeine just to function, there is probably a deeper issue here. Because like I said, visceral fat doesn't just sit there. It messes with everything under the surface. It's pumping out inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. Google these for yourself to check them out. They disrupt your metabolism, lower your testosterone, and mess with your brain. And that's why you feel slower, heavier, and less sharp. This is what most men miss. They think they need more discipline, but in reality, their biology is working against them. Poor sleep is a vicious cycle too, because visceral fat disrupts your sleep, and poor sleep leads to more visceral fat. Cortisol goes up, your hunger hormones go completely out of whack, and your cravings, especially for things like sugar and carbs, go through the roof. So now you're tired, wired, and overeating, which only drives the problem deeper. So if you're waking up feeling groggy, dragging yourself through the day, and then crashing at night, don't ignore this. Your body's not broken, it's just overwhelmed. And visceral fat might just be the root cause. And then the fourth sign is that you look normal, but you have low muscle mass. And this is what we call skinny fat. Now, this one catches a lot of guys off guard. You look in the mirror and think, I'm not that bad. Maybe a little soft, maybe a little bit out of shape, but I'm not fat. And your BMI is technically normal. Your weight hasn't changed much in years, so you assume that everything's fine. But here's the problem. BMI is a very blunt tool. It doesn't measure body composition. In fact, the only real reason that it exists is so that governments can measure the health of entire populations. And it certainly can't tell the difference between muscle and fat. That's why you get heavyweight boxers like Anthony Joshua, who is absolutely shredded. He will come out as obese on the BMI schedule. So even if your weight looks healthy on paper, you could still have very high levels of visceral fat under the surface, especially if you've got soft arms, no chest, narrow shoulders. That's the classic skinny fat look. And honestly, it is more dangerous than people think. I think the only reason that it doesn't get a whole lot of attention is because that just has become the average these days. Most guys are walking around as skinny fat. And if you see 7 out of 10 guys doing that, you think, well, what's the fuss? Everyone else looks like that. But that isn't good. The lack of visible fat tricks these guys into thinking that they're healthy, while underneath your metabolic health is in freefall. That was literally me in my 20s. I thought I was just getting away with it. I thought I had a fast metabolism. And it was only when I hit rock bottom just before my 30th birthday that I started looking into all of this stuff, that I got my blood checked, that I stood on one of those fancy scales that tells you your metabolic age. And it was 39, because low muscle mass means slower and lower insulin sensitivity, a slower metabolism, and something called poor nutrient partitioning, which means that extra calories get stored as fat rather than being used as fuel. In other words, your body and your metabolism are working against you rather than working for you. And because you're not obviously overweight, there's a high chance that doctors might miss it. In fact, there's a high chance that your doctor looks like that. But if you get your blood work done, it's going to tell a very different story. Low testosterone, high triglycerides, and a very high fasting glucose. So if you're a normal weight, but you feel soft, tired, and weak, again, don't ignore it. This is a huge red flag for high visceral fat. And then finally, sign number 5 is that you snore or have sleep apnea. This one surprises a lot of guys. But if you're a loud snorer, or worse still, your partner is telling you that you actually stop breathing whilst you're asleep, that's not just annoying for them, that's a warning sign for you. Because visceral fat doesn't just sit in your belly, it builds up around your chest and even in your neck. That extra fat is narrowing your airways and disrupting your breathing whilst you're asleep. And that is where things start to spiral. Because chronically poor sleep is going to wreck your hunger hormones. It spikes your ghrelin, your eat more hormone, and it's going to tank your leptin, which is the hormone that tells you that you feel full. And then on top of all of that, it's going to jack up your cortisol, which is your stress hormone. So you wake up craving sugar, feeling groggy, and your body is primed to store fat. And if you've got full-blown sleep apnea, then your body is literally starving for oxygen all night long. That is obviously not a good thing. It's going to send stress signals through your body. It's going to increase the inflammation. It's going to increase your insulin resistance. And yes, in the process, it's going to increase your visceral fat too. This is the hidden loop that most guys miss. You've got higher visceral fat, which means poor sleep, which means higher cravings, which means overeating, which means less activity, which then means more fat on top of that. You see what I mean? It's a very vicious cycle, and snoring is often the very first symptom. So if you wake up tired, even after 7 or 8 hours, if your partner's nudging you in the night because you literally stop breathing, or you find yourself just falling asleep on the couch during the day, then you need to take this seriously. Your sleep is a mirror of your internal health. And if it's broken, your body is screaming for help. Now, I appreciate that I went into some pretty graphic detail there, but to be honest with you, I did that on purpose, because the main goal of my YouTube channel isn't to just give you the facts. It's to encourage you to make a change, even if that means scaring you in the process. In fact, fear is one of the best drivers for change. So if I did scare you, I'm not sorry. And now that you know what to look for, let's talk about how to get rid of that visceral fat fast. And I'll start with some very good news. Once you put the plan in place that I'm about to take you through, your body will respond quickly. You see, unlike the subcutaneous fat, the fat that is just under your skin, visceral fat is actually metabolically active. Now, we've talked about how that can work against you, but it can also work for you. And as long as you're following the right plan, you can actually see some significant changes in a very short space of time. So with that said, here's the blueprint. Number 1, you want to eat to stabilize your blood sugar. You see, visceral fat thrives when your body is on a bit of a roller coaster. So the very first step is to get off that ride. So that means high protein at every meal, drinking plenty of water, adding fibrous veg and whole carbs like rice and potatoes to your meal, and trying to cut out the late night eating. Oh, and one other thing, you want to cut back on all the liquid calories and refined snacks. A very good and simple rule of thumb that you can live your life by from now on is that the fewer ingredients that are on your food packaging, the better. You want to be aiming for whole, single ingredient, nutrient dense foods. But the goal here isn't to starve yourself. We're not talking about going on some kind of crazy restricted diet or cutting out carbs or doing keto or carnivore or vegan, paleo or Atkins or anything like that. The goal here is to fuel your body properly. And then number 2 is to walk more than you think you need to. And the reason that I say it that way is because the average man is walking just 3,000 to 4,000 steps per day. Now, that's pathetic. You can forget the fancy cardio machines. You don't need to go out running 3 times a week. But what you do need to be aiming for is anything from 8,000 to 12,000 steps per day. Walk after meals, walk while you're on calls, walk outside with your kids, use the stairs rather than the elevators, park further away, walk to work, do whatever you can because it all adds up and it all adds up fast. So what I want you to do is pause this video. In fact, just wait till the end of the video. It'll be easier. Go on your phone and look at your step count for the last full week or even the last full month. Look at the average. Now, what I want you to do is commit to adding 20% to that number every single week until you are averaging at least 10,000 steps per day. Or another way you can look at this is that you're going to try and hit 70,000 steps per week. Because I appreciate that not every day is going to be the same. There are going to be some days where you're just sat behind the desk like I am today, and it's not going to be possible to get more than 5,000. But I promise you, if you put some real intention and some real focus into this, you'll be amazed how quickly you can stack up those steps and really start to burn off that visceral fat. And then number 3 is to prioritize muscle and not sweat. And that's because the more muscle you have, the more fat that you are going to burn, even at rest. So instead of going outside and chasing long runs and soreness and exhaustion, focus on resistance training 3 to 4 times per week. Forget the bicep curls and the crunches. Focus on full body movements, full body workouts, focusing on the compound movements, the squats, the deadlifts, the pushes, and the pull downs. And of course, make sure that you are progressively overloading on your weights each week. Progressively overloading, by the way, very simple concept, just means that you are increasing the amount of volume, the amount of weight essentially that you are lifting over a period of time, because otherwise your body, your muscles adapt and they stop responding to that stimulus. You want to be aiming to leave the gym feeling stronger, feeling better, not necessarily feeling broken. And then number 4 is that you want to treat your sleep like a superpower. Like I said earlier, a lack of sleep is going to spike your cortisol, your stress hormone. It's going to drive up your cravings. It's going to reduce your insulin sensitivity. It's going to tank your testosterone, and it's going to make this whole process 10 times harder. So here's the fix. The old 7 to 9 hours advice that you're going to get from your doctor or fitness influencers on YouTube is, quite frankly, dumb. I don't know anybody who is getting 9 hours a night. And honestly, you don't need to. A little bit like how people have become overly obsessed with the quantity of calories that they are eating. People aren't putting enough focus on the quality of their calories. Similar, you're not putting enough focus on the quality of your sleep. 9 hours of bad sleep is not going to be as good as 7 hours of high quality sleep. And that is exactly what you want to aim for. So start by protecting your bedtime like your life depends on it, because it does. That means no food 3 hours before bed, no water or no drinking at all 2 hours before bed, and try and get off your screens, whether it's the laptops, the phones, the TVs, at least 60 minutes before bed. And make your bedroom as cold, dark, quiet, and well ventilated as you possibly can. That environment, those things are what's going to help you to improve your sleep quality over a period of time. It's going to help you get to sleep faster, and it's going to help you sleep deeper. And then the other thing that you can try to do, although I appreciate this one is a little bit more of a challenge, is trying to go to bed and wake up at the same time. So what a lot of the science shows us is that sleep regularity can really help with this. And then last, but certainly not least, number 5 is that you want to build habits, because this isn't about being perfect for 7 days. This is about being consistent for 70. And in my experience, the best way that you can do this is set daily non-negotiables, whether that's 8,000 steps a day, 100 grams of protein, no alcohol on the weekdays, 3 liters of water, or getting to bed by 10 p.m. When you start to stack these simple habits, you'll then chip away at the visceral fat day by day. And what's crazy is that you'll be able to do all of that without having to bring in anything extreme into your life. You want to see this as a wake-up call, as a lifestyle shift, and not just another fad diet. So let's wrap this up. If you've got a growing waist, if you wake up feeling tired in the mornings, if you've got low muscle mass or your blood work's come back looking bad, there's a very good chance that your visceral fat is higher than it should be. But now you've got the warning signs. You know what's going on under the hood. And more importantly, you know exactly what to do about it. This isn't about panic. It's about taking action. Because like I said, visceral fat responds fast if you follow the right plan and if you're consistent with it. Not a crash diet, not 5 a.m. boot camps. We're talking about a smart, sustainable protocol, something that works with real life, something that is manageable even if you've got a crazy busy job, a missus and kids. But what ties all of this together and makes it so much easier for it to stick is the accountability, because knowing what to do isn't enough. If it was, we'd all be billionaires with 6-packs, wouldn't we? All the information is out there, freely available on YouTube, ChatGPT, and Google. You could sit there and watch every single YouTube video. You could know absolutely every single fact, but if you don't get up and do something about it, nothing is going to change. And the difference between the guys who make it and the ones who don't is having someone in your corner to guide you, to challenge you, to keep you on track when life gets in the way. And that's exactly what I give my clients on my elite coaching program. They get access to a proven system which is personalized to your goals, with coaching, support, and no BS guidance the whole way through. So if you'd like me to help you burn off your visceral fat and rebuild your health from the ground up, just go ahead and click the link under this video so you can check out how my coaching program works and see if it's right for you. Because it's time to stop guessing. It's time to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start doing what actually works. So hit the link and let's get to work. I'll see you in the next video.